All right, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome all to Hibernian Hall's Artist Talk. This is our second installment, and we want to welcome you all to our moderator this evening, Harris Leftera. If you don't know her, you will get to know her. She is the award winning theater director, acting coach, and playwright. Since graduating from Boston College with a degree in theater arts, Harris has directed over 25 plays and short films and has coached over 75 actors in the field. She is currently a trustee of Hobie Players in Waltham and a board member of Hibernian Hall in Boston. In 2019, she was nominated for the Best Director Dash Award. Through her work, Harris' goal is to promote diversity and inclusion as well as to focus on art as an educational tool.
Good evening and welcome everybody to the second of our three-part Creative Circle series panel. I want to take a few seconds and tell you why we're here tonight. Madison Park Development Corporation is celebrating its 55th year anniversary, and we wanted to honor Hibernian Hall as the pillar of the Roxbury Cultural District. So what best way to do that than by inviting some of the most amazing, talented, and very creative individuals who have made an impact and continue to make an impact in the field of arts, social justice, and the community in general. So our first guest tonight is Mr. Peter Snoad. Peter Snoad is an award-winning British American playwright and recovering actor based in Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts. The Draft, about real-life experiences with the military draft during the Vietnam War, is one of four of Peter's full-length plays produced by Hibernian Hall when he was visiting playwright in 2013-2014. It received two Best New Play nominations from New England Theater Critics and the 2015 Arts Impulse Award for Best Ensemble in a Play. The live performance video of the draft and an accompanying study guide are distributed as educational tools to colleges and high schools by the Media Education Foundation. Our next guest tonight is Miss Ashe Gordon. She's a violist, activist, and artistic director of Castle of Our Skins. Born out of the desire to foster cultural curiosity, Castle of Our Skins is a concert and educational series dedicated to celebrating Black artistry through music. From classrooms to concert halls, Castle of Our Skins invites exploration into Black heritage and culture, spotlighting both unsung and celebrated figures of past and present. And our third guest tonight is Miss Fulani Haynes. She's a vocalist, actress, storyteller, and organic chef. Fulani Haynes, retired nurse, is a lifelong resident of Roxbury and Dorchester who has worked tirelessly caring for others and raising her three children, Jibril, Azila, and James. Most people would move to Florida or the Bahamas and pull out a rocking chair after retiring from a 30-year career as a registered pediatric nurse by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Not Fulani Haynes. She has successfully created many community-based cultural and artistic programs that continue to contribute positively to the Roxbury and Dorchester neighborhoods of Boston. Ms. Fulani's accomplishments range from community support programs, musical endeavors, public speaking, theatrical performances, public health and supportive nutritional mentoring, organic gardening and cooking, to hosting live events, radio programs, and community dinners. Founder of the Village for Education and Training, where there are gardening classes, nutrition workshops, and culinary demonstrations and classes. Fulani's Kitchen Catering, teaching children to be self-sufficient in organic gardening, nutrition, and cooking. Fulani Haynes, vocalist, actress, and storyteller, both solo and collaborative. I want to welcome everybody tonight, and before we begin, I just wanted to let the panel and the audience know that we will reserve the last 15 or 10 minutes or so and open it up to questions, comments, any stories that you want to share with us in the chat. So feel free to do so. But until then, I'd like to welcome Peter Ashley and Fulani. And you guys can open up your videos and unmute anytime you want. There you go.
Thanks for having us here tonight.
Thank you guys for being here and taking time out of your schedules to be here tonight. I think Fulani might still be having a bit of an issue, but oh, there she is. Hello, hello. I wanted to start by just asking, what is your affiliation with Hibernian Hall? Tell me a little bit about your history with Hibernian Hall. And we can start with you, Peter, if you want.
Sure. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. This is a great opportunity to actually extend my heartfelt thanks to Hibernian Hall for giving me some amazing artistic opportunities over the last several years. It's been a great ride. What was the question again?
Totally fine. What's your affiliation with Hibernian Hall?
Right. So I was a visiting playwright at Hibernian Hall for a couple of years. And when I was asked whether I would like to be the visiting playwright, Dylan Buston, who was at that time the artistic director, Ola's predecessor, said, we'd like to do 4 of your plays. And I almost fell off my chair. Well, I did fall off my chair. And so that's been my affiliation. And I'm also very happy to be on the advisory council and help as best I can to give back to Hibernian Hall because it's been so good to me.
Thank you, Peter. How about you, Ashley?
Sure. I'll also share sentiment and gratitude for Hibernian Hall. I'm also on the advisory committee because of all of the great things that Hibernian Hall has done that I would very much love to help foster for other artists in the community. I'm also a JP resident currently. I had also lived in Dorchester and various other parts of the city, and am fortunate as a musician to have a space and a partner really like Hibernian Hall to be creative. So with Castle of Our Skins, some of the images that you saw were some of our residencies being a music ensemble in residence. I think we might have been one of the first music ensembles to do that, where we were able to have a very flexible space to just play with and create concert experiences focused on Black artistry, create educational workshops and open rehearsals and community conversations and poetry sessions and things like this. Educational workshops, both in Hibernian Hall and the DeWitt Center for the past maybe 4 or 5 years. And to know that every year we have a space to be able to play. So most recently, our Black Love residency, we did a mask ball there, a program called Ain't I a Woman, celebrating Black feminism, and then a program I Am a Man, celebrating Black masculinity, and just, again, having a space to be so open-armed to allow us to be creative.
Love it. Thank you. And Fulani?
Oh, hello. Good evening, everyone. I have so many wonderful experiences with Hibernian Hall. I've had birthday parties here of my own, celebrated other folks' community birthday parties, and end of life situations when we would have repasses here. One of the main things that sticks in my mind is when I worked as an overhire person, which means 2 hours before any event would start, the overhire committee would come in, about 5 or 6 of us, and we'd set up the hall for whatever the event was. If it was a wedding, a play, a concert, whatever it was, we would get our uniforms on and get ready to set up the hall. 350 seats, 25 tables, napkins, cups, everything, just get the room ready for the guests that were coming in. If it was a play, we would set up for the play. And what was so special for me is after we got everyone seated and the curtain call, and you read the directions to the audience about safety, and then we as overhire folks would get to sit down in the audience in the back and enjoy the play. Up, here comes the intermission. We have to jump up out of our seats, open up the doors so they could go and relieve themselves and have fun, having some water and some cocktails or whatever there was for intermission. And then the lights would flash and they would go back to watch Act Two. And we would sit down in the back and enjoy the second act of the play like we were audience members. I loved working at Hibernian Hall just for that one fact. Lots of fun, lots of fun. But met a lot of community, wonderful people who were theater goers and musicians, and oh, just a wonderful time here at Hibernian Hall. Mhm.
Thank you. I just, I think the moment you described about, the lights going down and then you get the audience to sit and you know the play and you just kind of sit back and you can see the play, the world of the play, you can see the actors on stage, you can see the audience's reaction. That is just, it's this
Yes.
beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful feeling. I wanted to kind of go beyond Hibernian Hall for a second, just talk a little bit about Roxbury Cultural District in general, because it's more than just Hibernian Hall. I wanted to ask you, in your experience, how did Roxbury become a cultural district? How did it get to where it is today? And we can start with Ashley.
Yeah, well, I am a transplant. I was born in Rochester, New York, studied in Ohio, came here for school, went to Germany, came back. So I don't have a lived experience with its history, but I certainly know anecdotally that before there was the name Roxbury Cultural District, Roxbury was the cultural district, right? And there's such a history and just so many legends, living legends, and ancestral legends who have been doing the work, whether or not there was a title attached to it. So there's already richness in the soil in Roxbury as it relates to arts and creativity, community celebration, support, and being able to have more cohesion now by having Roxbury Cultural District and having sort of central hubs is, I think, only a testament to that rich soil, the longevity of all of those living legends and again ancestors who have really paved the way for such a creative space.
Thank you, Ashley. And Fulani, I know you have a lot of experiences and a lot of history, so I would love to hear your point of view. I think
I went to an all-book school in the 3rd grade in the 50s. And it was marvelous. It was an integrated boys and girls, but it was all Black children from my community, all of my friends, grade kindergarten through grade 3. It was called the Asa Gray, located next to St. Francis de Sales on Ruggles Street area. After that, I can call myself a Madison Park girl because Madison Park was actually a park and it was bordered by 4 streets. I lived on Marble Street. There was Sterling and Windsor and another street. I can't think of the name of it right now. And I lived on Marble Street and I would go back and forth to school there, moved over to another part of Roxbury, which is near the cemetery on Washington Street in Nubian Square, now called Nubian Square. I lived there and attended the Dearborn Elementary School until the 8th grade. Oh, what a marvelous time we had. It was such a busy street full of shops, linoleum shops and theaters. We had 3 theaters that we would go to the theater for 17 cents and stay in the theater from 12 noon to 6 p.m., watching as much as we could watch, cartoons and full-length films and coming attractions. And our moms could send us there at 12 and we didn't get back home till 6 o'clock, and then just being involved with all of the jazz artists and watching my parents go to the jazz clubs and seeing all the wonderful musicians, male and female, that would come from New York City. Roxbury was booming. I
think Fulani must. Can you guys hear?
Kids, get out of here. You can't hang in here. But it was like well-rounded shopping malls and egg stores and chicken stores and Howard Johnson's and Joe and Nemo's stores and Woolworth store, 5 and Dimes and the museum. And it was just, I could go on and on and on and on with the wonderful life that I had in Nubian Square, called Dudley Square, right? That's just a little tip of it. My school, my elementary school was closed down because they said it was a segregated school.
Mm.
Yeah, so just a myriad of assets that I experienced and coming up through that 8th grade period and living. It was a community. Everyone took care of each other's child.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
All the mothers and the fathers would look out for you while our mothers and fathers were at work. So it's a very close-knit African-American community all the way around. And Roxbury extended, I would say, from the South End at that time all the way up to Warren Street and Townsend. It would go over to Fields, Kane Square area. It extended down in the South End, over in Roxbury Crossing area. So Roxbury was a pretty good city, very large city back in the day.
Lots of great memories. I love it.
Oh, absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And how about you, Peter? What do you think? How do you think Roxbury became a cultural district?
Well, you know, I really do. I mean, it's fascinating and wonderful to hear Fulani describe her many years in Roxbury and how rich and, you know, sort of vibrant it was. And I have to say, you know, also like Ashe, I'm a transplant. In my case, I grew up in the UK, and I've been in Boston 30 some years, but I really didn't get to know Roxbury very well until I got the gig at Hibernian Hall as a visiting playwright. And then like so many people, when you get to know a place and you get to know the folks involved, it's just been a fabulous experience for me to make new friends and to get a feel for Roxbury as a cultural center hub. And I can't speak to the issue of the cultural district. I don't have that knowledge and experience, but I can say that I've just felt so at home at Hibernian Hall. It's sort of like an artistic home for me, and I've made some wonderful friends through my association with Hibernian Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. Peter, I wanted to ask you a question about the draft, your play that was performed and recorded at Hibernian Hall in 2015. Can you take us through your process? How did you, what inspired you to write it? And then, you know, how did you develop it, and your rehearsal timing? You pretty much take us through like a small journey of your process of the draft.
I'll do my best. My memory isn't as great as it used to be, but I blame my good friend Tom Gardner, who gave me a book by another friend, Tom Weiner, called Called to Serve, Stories of Men and Women Confronting the Vietnam War Draft. And Tom gave it to me as a gift, a Christmas gift, and said, "There, Mr. Playwright, make a play out of that." And, you know, I was in the UK when the Vietnam War was happening. I was actually a journalist, reporter, and I covered a bunch of anti-war demonstrations in London. But I didn't have that firsthand experience of being here and growing up and being a teenager when the draft came along. So anyway, I read the book and I said to Tom, I think we could do something with this. And then it was a case of trying to create, we had lots of stories to choose from, the real life stories. All of them except one were in the book, and I got to meet the people whose stories were in the book. And one of the really tricky things was I wanted to represent as much as possible both all the perspectives about the war and the draft, and at the same time see that there was representation across diversity, so that we had gender mix, we had racial and ethnic mix in the cast. And I remember when I started out, some of the stories jumped out right at me, so I'd love to have this in the play. then I had to make a matrix to figure out, to make sure that we had the diversity we wanted in the storytelling. And then I actually went to a retreat, writing retreat in Virginia, which I got a spot there, and wrote a good chunk of the first draft of the play. And then and it was going to be done at Hibernian Hall. It was going to be one of the 4 plays. And the next thing I did was I called my old friend Diego Arcendinas, who's I've worked with in theater in the past, who's a wonderful director. And I said, Diego, interested in taking this on? And he was immediately, yes, I'm on board. And I just want to shout out to him because he had such creative ideas about how to take the script and stage it, because we wanted to do it in a way in which we made full use of the Hibernian Hall ballroom, but at the same time keep it as simple and as interactive as possible. And so when we cast the show, and we had this great group of actors, and we just worked the play in, tried different things. I remember, we were in the middle of the last week of rehearsal, and I had to go to Florida because I had a friend whose partner had just passed, and I needed to be with him. And I had a phone conversation with Diego, and he said, Peter, I think the last 20 pages of the play isn't working, and we need to figure out what to do. And he had some great suggestions, pretty much all of which I said, that sounds great to me. And I reworked the script in a hotel room in Sarasota, and then emailed him the new pages, and everybody just rolled with it. And then I think one of the most satisfying things about the play for me was that our actors were actually playing, with one exception, were playing people who were still alive, who went through this, were now in their 60s and 70s. And when we had the opening night of the play, 6 of those, I think 6 or 7 of the 9 people who were in the play, whose stories made up the play, were in the audience. And they got to meet the actors who were playing them after the show was over. And that was incredibly moving, because these are really powerful, very personal stories. And the actors took them on with, they wanted to do justice to these stories. And I think without exception, they did. And the people that they played were just enormously appreciative of what they had done to their own stories. That was powerful. But I just want to say also, I think that, as a theater person yourself, collaboration is the name of the game. And when you have a wonderful unit of folks who are just being creative and collaborative together, magic can happen. And I think they really, I saw that, I hadn't seen the video for a couple of years, and I saw it last night. And I have to say, I was like incredibly engaged. I thought, wow, look at that.
Yes, it was.
That I thought, they had done an amazing job. And I actually wrote to them, to all the cast yesterday, and said, sorry, I have to do this again. I have to thank you again, because I just saw the video, and you guys rock. I just had to tell them again, because I think they made the play far better than I had hoped it could be. And so anyway, yeah, that's sort of, that answers your question.
And yes,
Your
and for
play
those,
is running all week, isn't it? Running all week?
It's
Isn't
actually,
the draft running all week?
I think this is the last day. I think Ola can confirm that. This is the last day it's on.
I
But
actually just, sorry, I just shared the link of the draft with everybody. So if you want to watch it, it's available on YouTube. It's a great play. I got to watch it 2 nights ago, and I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And what a process. How long was rehearsal?
I think it was about 3.5 weeks, and which was, as you know, it's kind of short for a big play, big cast play like that. And it was the first time, and it had a reading, but not a stage reading, a sort of, music stand reading. That was the only thing we'd done before. So we were going a lot on faith that we could really make this happen in the time. We did have a whole series of video projections planned, and then we ran into technical difficulties and we had to scrap all that. But in fact, I think, that would have been a very interesting experience to have that, but the play totally worked without that. I think if you've seen it, I think you'd appreciate that. It was bare bones, with a lot of movement, a lot of shifting of just some screens, some plain screens and a few chairs. And I think it was as powerful like that as it might. I think the video projection might well have been somewhat distracting at times. And so maybe it was a blessing in disguise that we couldn't make the video projections work.
I have to say it's very impressive because the average time of rehearsal is about 6 weeks. And to get a play like that done in 3.5 weeks with that choreo, because there's a lot of movement, like Peter said, and a big cast, very, very impressive. Thank you, Peter. Ashley, I wanted to talk to you about the Castle of Our Skins, the organization you founded. I know you touched on it earlier. Can you tell us a little more about the organization and its impact, and what inspired you in your process of founding it, and where it is now and where it's headed?
Sure, yeah. I should say that it's co-founded with Anthony R. Green, who is an African-American composer, pianist. We met at New England Conservatory during our master's in the early 2000s, so some time ago. And as is typical for, I think, a lot of creative genres, representation is very much lacking, and education as it relates to Black excellence is also very much lacking. So that was no different in our classical music training and multiple degrees that we had, to not see ourselves reflected and not know of the 500 years worth of excellence that Black people, African diasporic people have created and are creating. So very much a lack of information that was presented to us, which presented a very big need and sense of responsibility in turn, especially as what we talked about with Roxbury. The entire greater Boston area is just so rich. It is such a cultural export, arts in general. Thinking of my alma mater, New England Conservatory, on the Avenue of the Arts on Huntington Avenue, across from the Boston Symphony Orchestra, down the street from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, the MFA Huntington Theater. Also the space where Florence Price, right, beautiful African-American composer and organist piano, studied. The Negro National Anthem creators, the brothers, went to New England Conservatory. Coretta Scott King and MLK, they met there. I mean, there's such expression as it relates to Blackness that is also part of this narrative, that's also on that Huntington Avenue of the Arts, that is just not known. So our mission is really to help foster interest and appreciation, respect and love for what has and has always been known, that there's so much output in creativity as it relates to Black people in creating in this field that is largely viewed as very conservative and elitist and very white, to be honest. So our mission is really to help inspire people to be curious and to see themselves reflected, to engage and be inspired with just such a constant reminder of accomplishment as it relates to Blackness, not just in this country and African American specifically, but really across the diaspora, that we're not monolithic. There's just so much creativity to be shared and to experience and to engage with. So for me as a classically trained violist, a lot of that has to do with music, specifically some of the music that I studied, but we're really interested in collaborating. So we haven't in our 8 seasons done something like a musical theater or a play with music, but we're hoping to do something in our 10th season in opera, which is story and music and drama and all sorts of things, visuals, dance kind of combined together. Very interested and fortunate to have space like at Hibernian Hall to work with dance. So we recently worked with VLA Dance, who I know an ensemble in residence, a dance ensemble in residence at Hibernian Hall, worked with visual artists and capoeistas and fashion designers in our mask ball with Daniel Callahan, who is also in Roxbury artist, president of the Roxbury Cultural District, and just being able to find so many opportunities to connect across disciplines, all as a through line, in a way to really advance and express and showcase Black artistry. So that's Castle of Our Skins in a nutshell and sort of why we exist. There is no shortage of opportunities and connections to be made. So we'll be here for, as a while. There's enough content for us to really be here for a while. And again, especially being in Boston, which is known for its science and medicine and its arts, to really make sure that Blackness is a part of that, because it has been for centuries, for quite some time, for generations. And
I'm just out of curiosity, what was the inspiration behind the name Castle of Our Skins?
Yeah, I think that is really I'm feeling, I think, inspired by Fulani with gardening and things like this, and being in thinking of food. So it's like the seed of our inspiration for the work that we do. It comes from a Nikki Giovanni poem. The poem is Poem for Nina, as in Nina Simone. And to summarize the poem, it says we're all imprisoned in the castle of our skins. And if that's the case, then we might as well treat our skin like a palace. And it's beautiful, and we're going to be proud, and we're going to live in it in its fullest, and celebrate it. Be proud to live in this skin, which is unashamedly Black or brown, and celebrate that. So that's the heart of really what we do.
I love it. Thank you, Ashley. Fulani, you are a powerhouse. I don't even know where to begin with everything that you have done, but I wanted to focus on the organization you founded, the Village of Education and Training. And I wanted to ask a little bit more about your process and how you came to create it, and just your journey throughout this founding this.
I think someone might have dropped me on my head when I was a child, because I have so many things that I love to do. And out of the Village for Education and Training, there comes many smaller companies. The actor Fulani Haynes, the chef Fulani Haynes, who works with youth. I recently have a job with the Boston Public Health Commission, working with young children who are school-age children, and they're homeschooled during the COVID. So it was support for the families, teaching the children how to be self-sufficient, because most of the parents are cooking 4 meals a day. So we would go in and teach the children how to use a blender, how to use a smoothie maker, how to use a panini, to get them started on nutritional thoughts and how to be self-sufficient in the morning, especially when they get up to make their infused water, to create a blender, a smoothie blender, or a vegetable blender, or a fruit smoothie. And then for lunch, also help out by creating their own healthy sandwiches. The parents were they were very happy that we were giving the children these kinds of skills, because they're making 4 to 5 meals a day, homeschooling, and a lot of chores that they had to do from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night so they could rest their weary heads. So that was one of the other programs. The other program is a program for seniors, 65 plus. It's called Fulani's Kitchen, and it's at the Urban Farming Institute on a weekly basis, sharing my knowledge about how I survive, how I eat nutritionally. I've now a vegetarian gone to becoming a vegan. Not so doing so hot with the vegan butter and the vegan cheese, but I'm getting there, you know. So I share all of my skills, my knowledge on how that, you know, I explain. We were always taught to eat 3 meals a day. So if we're 65 plus, someone did the math, that's like 9 million meals we've eaten all of our lives. So let's go easy on our digestive system. So I use part of my nursing knowledge about the human anatomy and talk about the colon, being going easy on the stomach and the colon, giving it a break, and foods that are softer to digest for the aging human being. Chewing your foods more, making sure you're drinking all your waters, and I focus a lot on that. We cook together and we learn together. We also have a chair yoga program that starts off before the culinary class with Fulani comes on. So it's a number of different things that comes out of the village. I was once a part of the greenhouse, so I was growing my food year round for my family. And I gave that up to a group of sisters, younger sisters who now have the spot at the Dudley greenhouse. So all of that was the village.
And how has COVID impacted both organizations? Because I know a lot of it requires one-on-one contact. What has been going on this past year or so? How have you guys managed to still help people out?
Skillful technical people have been able to transfer our senior meetings and our yoga classes onto the Zoom platform.
Okay.
So the yoga team, they help the seniors to get Chromebooks. They help the seniors to learn how to maneuver around Zoom. And we have 25 to 30 seniors that come on Thursday morning to do chair yoga for 1 hour. And then after that, an hour with Fulani's Kitchen. And they are, at first it was a struggle. They had to be taught. I had to be taught. It was difficult to learn the Zoom process, but now everyone's popping on and getting in and writing in the chat, and we play little games and we talk and we socialize on Zoom where we were socializing together at the Urban Farming Institute. But we have managed to transfer all of that onto the internet by using Zoom, and it's working out very well. Yes.
A community within a community.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. These are all amazing stories. I'll take us back for a sec to Hibernian Hall. And I want you to just maybe take a couple of seconds and just think of your best memory there, whether it was a play you attended or something, you know, or a show that you were part of, or, you know, any experience, just a nice memory that you've had at Hibernian Hall. And let's see, I don't know who wants to start first. Like, who can start with Peter?
Oh gosh, you know, I was thinking about this question because it was on the list that you gave us. I was like, you know, mining my mind for memories, and I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because they're here, but the mass ball, Ashe, and Fulani's jazz, you know, her music, those are really wonderful memories I have. I have to say too that for me personally, I mentioned it before, the meeting of the actors and the characters they played in the draft was a pretty special moment for me. But I know when I go to Hibernian Hall that I'm going to see something interesting and dynamic and different and challenging. So I always love to go. There.
Very nice. What about you, Ashley?
I think for me, some of the fundraising events
Mm.
where it's a showcase of artists that maybe I haven't connected with, poets I haven't connected with. Um, I feel like I am, as artistic director, a pretty resourceful person, so I like to know who's in the area, and I'm always surprised and impressed when I check out what's going on at Hibernian Hall, for instance, like at some showcase sort of events that they have for fun with at fundraisers, of just who is in the area doing things and have been doing things. So I appreciate that kind of teaching me, introducing to me who is in the community doing what they're doing and doing it well. I think also too, I appreciate just going into the office because it's so there's lots of energy. It's bustling and is sort of a community within its own community. So connecting with um, Kay, Ola, Assad, whomever is just sort of there, even front desk. It's invitational. So the entire sort of experience I find to be warm and inviting. Whether or not it's some of the play readings that I've also gone to, which is also great to just sit in the audience sometimes and not be an artist who's performing, but sit in the audience and again get to connect with community. Same at the DeWitt Center, just being able to have conversations just as human to human, have conversations and just experience and check out interesting things that again I probably wouldn't have found out about otherwise had it not been for having a space like Hibernian Hall and DeWitt Center and the people, of course, that work there.
Fulani, what about you? Which I'm sure you have plenty, but what would be your best memory at Hibernian Hall?
The best?
Or one of the best, I guess.
One of them was Trisha Elam, playwright Trisha Elam. She was the visiting artist, playwright here, I believe, and she wrote 3 plays. I hope I'm getting this right, but one was called Maternity Ward, and there were 3 actors in maternity wards. These were short plays, and a 1-act play. I played a nurse on a teenage maternity ward. So the 2 young ladies were not full women, but they were having children, snapping gum, blowing bubbles, talking about their boyfriends and doing all kinds of things that teenage women would do. But now they're having a child, they are with child. I come onto the scene in the older maternal West Indian midwife obstetrician nurse comes onto the floor and tries to deal with these young ladies. It was quite hysterical, and working with 2 other young ladies who were pregnant, they really put it on and they put me through it. And the theme was that I needed to get them to understand that they have to have nutrition on their mind. They can't be sneaking out, having a cigarette or doing anything that they're not supposed to be doing while they're carrying these children. And I would go back and forth, back and forth. One had an IV, one sister, she started having her contractions. And so I had to guide her through the contractions. And it was just very hilarious to have us mouth to mouth, blowing and huffing and puffing. And she's screaming, "Get this thing out of me, I can't take it." And she's screaming, and I'm trying to assist her, calm her down, get her in the wheelchair and wheel her off to the delivery room. It was a comedy.
Sounds very good. I want to read it now. I want to read it. And I guess my question for all 3 of you, in your own, your own field within the arts, how are the acoustics at Hibernian Hall? Just like me, out of curiosity, asking. I've directed there once, but we had used part of the space, and I thought it was pretty good. But for example, Ashley, I know performing music, how how do the acoustics work in the Hibernian Hall, and how does that affect the sound?
Yeah, Hibernian Hall is definitely big. It's a ballroom. So having a solo player or a small group of players to try to fill the space can be a bit challenging. So what we have done, and I think it works really well, is to try to create an intimate sort of experience. So if the musicians are on the floor, we have the audience close to us. So it isn't as if huge stage and 30 feet back is the audience kind of a thing. So trying to use Hibernian Hall and really use any space to our advantage. And then also, like any other space, sort of figuring out where the sweet spots are. So that could sometimes influence what kind of music we'll bring, or how many musicians we'll bring, if it's amplified, if it's acoustic. But once we understand and sort of know the space, then we can sort of figure out what works best, and also in what configuration.
And about Peter and Fulani, I'm sure you also have your own experience, especially you, Fulani, because you've performed on stage there.
I performed there and I've worked in the overhire. Remember I told you about that? So we would be setting up everything. So we have the lighting man, we have the sound man. And those two technicians were overworked. They tried to do their best. And years ago, the sound was not very good at Hibernian Hall until we, one of our bosses, Dylan Buston, I think it was he that brought in these panels that had to make the hall sound better with the acoustics for musicians, for speakers, for singers, and it improved over the years. So they used to have big band dances late at night with those huge DJ speakers, and that would work, but the community folks would complain it was too loud. But then to look at it technically, the Assad and the sound person, he was the sound person, and the lighting people, they would do everything they possibly could to get it balanced and sounding correctly. But I think when those sound panels came in, it brought the grade up to par. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd endorse that too, Fulani, because I remember the first play I had produced at Hibernian Hall. We had a sort of a thrust stage with chairs on either side, and the acoustics was such that if the actor was turning one way to one part of the audience, it was very hard to hear them if you were on the other side.
Yes, yes.
And like Fulani said, like you said, when the new panels were put in, it made a dramatic difference to certainly acoustics for actors. It was a very different experience, and huge improvement.
Mhm.
That was what, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe? No,
Yeah,
2000.
maybe a little further back, maybe
Yeah.
about 5 or 6 years.
2014.
Yeah.
About 6 years ago, yeah, because
Mhm.
the draft was recorded in 2015, right?
Right.
And then,
That
so
was before that, yeah.
which, by the way, it's interesting because I got to see it 2 nights ago, like I said, but I thought it was recorded around COVID time, because now everything is just like everybody's talking about recording everything. And I was thinking, like, what a great idea to just have it, recorded, because then it stays, and it's timeless pretty much. Okay, I want to open up the panel to questions and comments and stories from everybody. So feel free to ask any questions you might have. I don't see any questions yet, but I'm sure some will pop up. So until then, we can just continue the conversation, because this is all very, very interesting. How do you think, and again, yeah, Fulani?
No, I was just going to talk a little bit about the reception area. When the guests would come into Hibernian Hall, the reception area was very small, so they would step off of the elevator right into our laps, and there would be a welcoming desk there. And I got to play the role of the receptionist as one of the overhire people, and so I'm like a social butterfly. I had a good time seeing all my friends and welcoming in and taking care of all of the problems, and was a great staff. We worked together. And as a matter of fact, Ola used to be our boss before she transitioned to this wonderful job that she has. And she would get us together. She'd get us together. You know what I'm saying? It was just very enjoyable.
That's what
I remember that as being a highlight for me.
Yeah, that's when I first met you, Fulani, when you were glad handing everybody as they came in. And you were the spirit. I was like, who is this person?
Yeah, right.
So Valerie Fox wants to know, what events are you working on, each one of you? And we can start with Ashley, if you would like to.
Sure. There are, I think, an escalated amount of events that are in various parts of development as it relates to just sort of the immediacy of COVID, of trying to reschedule things, and then having plan A through Z for future things. So there's definitely a lot of recording that's going on. So one project is, I think actually today it released with the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, called Witness, which highlights different African-American spirituals, among other histories as it relates to the Gardner and to the tradition of spirituals. It's a 4-part series, once a month. You can find more information on either castleoferskins.org or the Gardner's website. We are also working with the Laundry School of Music, where we're music ensemble in residence and collaborating with another ensemble, Windsor Ensemble, which is 20 plus years, I believe, young, and creating a program that is inspired by poetry. And the Afro-British composer Samuel Coleridge Taylor includes a world premiere. And then with our Shirley Graham Du Bois Creative in Residence, have a whole project in June, all focused on the continent of Africa, and we'll have a virtual festival for children all about Zimbabwe culture, and a whole showcase, in person, remote, still to be determined, at the Boston Center for the Arts, where we're in residence. And then also just looking forward to our 10th anniversary, which is next season. So thinking about September 2022, and all the events that we're planning, which I can't say too much about, but that is definitely in our front burner as we're trying to build out for that, and obviously for next year. So various iterations that are going on right now. The easiest way to stay in touch is to follow us on social media at CastleSkins, or connect with our mailing list online, castleskins.org. But yeah, no shortage of stuff and no shortage of content also as it relates to recording things. So our YouTube page is, I feel like, quadrupled as a result of COVID, and continuing to create. We've added three other people to our team, one of which is a director of education, Taylor Mtutul, and she is creating all sorts of interactive educational workshops and has a number of things coming up as well, which is really exciting. And a takeover of social media with Black student unions from different colleges in the area. So anyway, there's a lot going on, and it is exciting and overwhelming all at the same time, but you can follow that exciting, overwhelming joy on our social media and website.
And I just shared the link to the Castle of Our Skins website with everybody. So because by the way, Valerie also is asking, how can we connect with the artists? So I guess part of it would be to reach out to you through the website. Ashley,
website would have everything, and from there you can find YouTube, you can find the social media handles, you can find my email, director of education, ops manager, all sorts of people. But the website, yeah, would be the central hub.
And Peter, what events are you currently working on, and how can everybody connect with you?
Sure. Well, I'm very happy to be working with Hibernian Hall again. Hibernian Hall's producing a stage reading of a new play of mine called Seeing Violet. It's about a wealthy white New England couple who struggle to come to terms with their discovery that it's a heterosexual couple, his ancestors were slaveholders and also made most of their money from the slave trade. And the play had one reading in Newburyport at the Firehouse Center for the Arts there, and this will be its second reading. My good friend and many-time collaborator Vincent Siders is going to be directing. We just finished casting. We have 3 great actors, and we start rehearsal. I think towards the end of next week. And I can the dates when that stage reading will be on the Hibernian Hall YouTube channel is on April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. I'm excited about this. Vincent was directed another of my plays at a Hibernian Hall called Raising David Walker, about the Black abolitionist David Walker. And he also acted in the first of my plays there called Guided Tour. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the play does in its latest version. I sort of have a wild ambition for this play, is that when I started to think about the play, I wanted it to be something that could be used, if it turned out right, as an educational tool, because it's about white people discovering, knowing about and/or discovering the hidden history of people who've been enslaved in their community in the past, and the connections, economic connections of their community with the slave trade. As we know, New England's economy, in fact, the national economy, was basically built on the backs of people who were enslaved. And so I would love this play to be shown, to be used as a tool, to be performed in communities that are wanting to explore their histories with slavery. So that's my fondest hope. But first things first, this will be the second reading, and we'll see how it goes. If people want to, certainly Hibernian Hall will be, Ola and everyone at Hibernian Hall will be working on promoting the play, obviously. But if people want to connect with me directly, peter@petersnoad.com, you can reach me there. And I'd be happy to add you to my mailing list, which I will be sending out notices about this play and others in the future. So I'm excited about it. Just coincidentally, well, not coincidentally really, but I also work with an organization called Beacon Hill Scholars, which is dedicated to raising awareness about the very vibrant free Black community that existed on Beacon Hill in the mid to early mid-19th century, and played a pivotal leadership role in the abolitionist movement. And at Beacon Hill Scholars, we're sort of in the midst of revamping our website to include, I think will be terrific, a whole lot of information about the history of contextual information, not just about Beacon Hill, but about slavery in New England and nationally, and the abolitionist movement locally and nationally. And so that's actually a great parallel for me to be working on this play, and also to be working on this website revamp that we're doing there. That organization is Beacon Hill Scholars, and you can find us on the web too. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. And I would like to close with Fulani. What events are you currently working on, and how can anyone contact you?
April 22, 23, and 24,
Same day.
Just yesterday, I received a call from Misha Thomas, who is the manager of the Haley House. And they're, with the COVID lightening up a little bit, they're going to have some outside events. And so I think she's looking for live jazz music, the band and I will, but I don't know exactly what she's planning, but she did call and ask me if I would be interested. And of course I said yes. And then Portia, who is the queen poetic woman in our city, she is interested in working with mother founder Nina La Negra of Art is Life Itself. And a series that ran at the Haley House for 13 years or more called Art is Life Itself. And I was her little co-host there, but it's her work. And we're going to be working with Portia. Actually, we have a phone call, a Zoom call with Portia in the morning around what she's thinking about developing around bringing back some of the scenes from Art is Life Itself. It's an open mic series where we invited everyone to come and just show us what you got. We had a microphone, we had a band, sometimes we had a band, so folks would bring their instruments, their poetry, their writings, their sad songs, everything. And we meet every Thursday night for 13 years at the Haley House, entertaining our community. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that a lot. Yeah.
How can we
Thank you
reach
for
out to
asking.
you? How can our audience find you? How can we contact you?
jazzvoke@aol.com.
Okay, sorry, can you say that again?
jazzvoc@aol.com. jazzvoke@aol.com is my email.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I know we went a few minutes over time, but this was very educational and a lot of fun. I want to thank all three of you for taking time to be here tonight. I want to thank our lovely audience, and I want to thank Ola for putting this together. I want, just wish you guys stay safe, and, sooner than later, we'll just all get together again, and, Zoom will just be a memory. So have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you next Thursday with two more really, really cool and exciting guests.